Preface. Our favourite household elf, Dobby, lived. Harry's Christmas surprise. My stomach is full of turkey and pudding. I can barely move without groaning. It's been a wonderful Christmas. Fun, to say the least. I'm pleased to say, although I didn't think the Burrow could cope, there are 3 more residents at the Burrow. Last year was when it all kicked off. Somewhat surprisingly, Dobby and Winky got married in a small part of the grounds, under the pink flowers of a crab apple tree. Winky and Dobby wed. It was just a small gathering. Ron, Hermione, Aberforth, Hagrid, Lupin and Tonks were also there. Our kids were excused from classes, and a few elf friends of Winky and Dobby's from the Hogwarts kitchen attended. There was fresh pastries and butterbeer served afterwards. Although Professor McGonagall could not attend due to some headmaster duties she had outside of Hogwarts, she did send an owl just after the ceremony with a personalised note and a small gift, which turned out to be a refilling teapot. Winky and Dobby never have to worry about running out of tea. Anyway, Winky became pregnant not long after the wedding. Dobby sent an owl to us telling us excitedly of the news of the new baby. Well, not a baby, but elflet. I only recently found out what a baby elf is called. Within 6 months, Winky had the elflet. That's the duration a female elf carries. The elflet was a little male. They decided to name him Bink, after Winky's father. Well, I had an idea. Don't get me wrong, Hogwarts is a brilliant place. But is the kitchen and elf quarters the right place to raise a little elflet? All that noise, bustling around and activity? I could have asked Hagrid to find them a small home, or even Professor McGonagall to offer them a spare room in the castle, but a better thought came to mind. The Burrow! Mrs. Weasley has always wanted an elf, and honestly, as she gets older, she needs to slow down. She could use the help. Ginny suggested I make it a surprise, so I began to work with Mr. Weasley. Ginny and I popped in 2 days before Christmas when Mrs. Weasley was out. We built a small elf-sized cabin on the outskirts of the Weasley orchard. We did this through the brilliantness of a few construction spells that Mr. Weasley knew. Ginny, as always, did a wonderful job, coming up with a list of furnishings needed for the little cabin. So Mr. Weasley, Ginny and I got to work. We used the Reducio spell to shrink objects to a more miniature size, such as a bed, cot, a tiny oven, a stove, and a couch. Ginny even whipped up a small fence and a stone pathway leading up to the cabin. Mr. Weasley then found some fairy lights in the shed that we hung up and used to light up the small cabin home. It looked wonderful. Very cosy. Dobby deserved this. A place to call his own. Then, as planned previously through owls, Dobby, Winky and little elflet Bink came through the Flu network. Although Winky and Dobby can both travel anywhere with one snap of their fingers, it was easier with little Bink to travel as a group in one go using the Flu powder. When Winky saw the cabin, she wept. I expected that. And Dobby was speechless. Well, on Christmas morning, we took Mrs. Weasley out to the little cabin. Winky, Bink and Dobby were waiting outside. Mrs. Weasley exclaimed as we got closer, goodness!" We explained that if it was all right with her, Dobby and Winky and little Bink would now be living at the Burrow, but moreover, although they are free elves, they were here to help Mrs. Weasley run the household. Winky was very keen to help Mrs. Weasley in the kitchen, telling Mrs. Weasley she couldn't go more than a few days without needing to clean an oven or make a bed. Mrs. Weasley was nothing short of delighted, repeating again and again how welcome they were. The new little elf family is settled now and joined us for Christmas lunch. Lily loves playing with little Bink. I'm pretty happy with how things turned out. It's always been the case at the Burrow that more is merrier. Merry Christmas all. Harry.